Well, hey, it's Dr. Scott coming to you with another quick discussion starter for Wednesdays. And I guess I'm going to call this one Shut Up and Organize, the big O, and or Shut Up and Brainstorm, same thing, same idea. But the question is, how can you have that mind like water so that everything flows? And the real secret of flow, for those of you that have plumbers in the family, like me, come from a blue-collar working family, water doesn't magically flow through pipes, and ideas don't magically flow from brains onto the page any more than electricity flows without wires and an electrician. So you have to engineer flow. The trick is, therefore, to use various kinds of organizers to pre-organize all of the ideas that are flying out of your mind. And I've got some ideas for you about how to do that. The one in the book is really interesting, the alligator organizer. So I'll let our writing workshop friend Judy teach you how to do that in the book, chapter 8. But here's a couple other quick ideas about how to do it. And they all boil down to sort of trying to get your ideas into flexible boxes, not too rigid, but also not too disorganized. And some of you, it seems to me, have a graphic organizer brain that looks a lot like your favorite gumballs in a giant jumble, and then you can't figure out which one's first, second, and third. So let me suggest that you can kind of combine the two, and you can say, oh, there was a good idea, and put it into, say, this box, and there's a good idea, and then, say, put it into, got to get it out of your brain, this box, and then there's a good idea, I guess that's the brainstorming part, and put that into, say, this box. And the really flexible part of this, I almost dropped my organizer, is then to play around with, well, it's kind of like tic-tac-toe. Well, what if I put this one here? Or what if I did this one here? What I see students making a mistake with is trying to be too rigid in the order in which you describe things. You do want to make an order, but you also want to be flexible and say, well, what if the red one went over here instead? And play around with that, because it's really fun. It's really fun and interesting. Now, there are various tools for doing this. There's a ton of stuff online, and I was starting to make you a list or links, but like honestly, just Google graphic organizers, and there's like 100,000 of them for iOS, and another 100,000 of them available for your Android devices, and another 100,000 for your Mac, and it's like, there's too many. And it's also really useful to Google graphic organizers within, say, Google Drive, because Google has any number of them that they're offered to you. One that I found that's quite popular with teachers is called Bubble.us. And this is a low-cost, easy-to-use graphic organizer, popular with K through 12 teachers, but also popular with with people like me. I'll mention another one that I use for very large book writing projects. There's an organizer for writers called Scrivener, and Scrivener, you might have to look this up in your dictionary. Bartleby the Scrivener. Scrivener is an old word for somebody who copies things onto a paper. Famous short story, Bartleby the Scrivener. Anyway, that's the English major pun. But the idea of this thing is that it organizes whole novels or whole multi-chapter nonfiction creative writing projects like I have, like all the lakes in the world that I want to write about, or all of the Americans who changed the world from Paris. So when you're dealing with really large projects, there's some very interesting tools. And Scrivener, Scrivener, is a tool that many professional writers, including me, swear by. But one of the things it does is, again, it sort of just helps you organize your ideas. So here's a funny way to think about this. Graphic organizers is not a new idea. These are Buddhist tankas from Tibet. But the idea that you organize ideas and concepts in some sort of a pattern, whether it's a mandala circle pattern, or let's say whether it's like getting your Buddhas in line like this, or your Bodhisattvas in line like this, or whether, let's say, it's like another kind of circle that also rotates inside the mouth of this lovely demon creature here, or perhaps most important when you begin to move from the ideas to text. And all of these things can be done. But the really old school way to do this, and I'm just going to kind of end here, the really old school way to do this is to put an idea on this card and put an idea on this card. I didn't have any 3x5 cards at home. They're all in my office. But anyway, we used to literally do this with 3x5 cards. And there are plenty of tools on your phone or your computer that will do this digitally. But the idea is, like, let's say, here's a quote I want to use in my paper. Here's a quote I want to use in my paper. Here's a quote I want to use in my paper. Here's a quote and I want to use in my paper. So I have 4 things that I know that I want to quote. I want to quote from Meili Chai, Sandeep Roy, Maria Azanova, and Samina Ali. Those happen to be our guests coming up last week and this week. But what the cards will then allow me to do is say, okay, well, wait a minute. Now, what if I start with this card, but then I go to that card? But then, well, wait a minute. What if I do this one, but that one? And you can push them around. You can make notes on them. And actually, one of the things that Scrivener.com comes with is a digital cork board. It was like this literal piece of cork that you would hang on your wall, and then you would stick all these cards up there, and then you would like put a pin in them, but that was so that you could move them around and keep control of your chapters and on your ideas. So whether you do this in a virtual space, which is the way that we're interacting now, or whether you do it in a physical space with your favorite gumball ideas, all loaded into a literal physical structure, which might be in old school like 3x5 cards, I want you to find a way to organize the yin and the yang of your internal dialogue so that when the paper comes out, it has a beautiful, flowing, organizational structure that will make readers like me weep with joy and insight. That's what we really want. And I learned a new phrase this week that I really love from one of those how to organize your brain teachers. I think he stole it from Zen. Mind like water. So if you have that internal flexibility, your ideas will flow out of your not yet bald head onto the paper, onto the keyboard, and it will feel beautiful and graceful and powerful as a great flowing river of ideas. So shut up and organize. Shut up and organize. Shut up and organize.